Welcome to Salve, a therapeutic podcast for digital ailments. We're here to ease your online aches and entrepreneurial anxieties, one session at a time, with our host Jordan Brannon and today's guest Mathias Ptacek from RankScale. Today's worrying condition, the dissociative state brought on by AI ranking and reputation management.
Hello, everyone. This is Jordan Brannon, your host at Salve, the place where you go to get your digital ailments and pain points treated as you seek to grow digitally. Today, I'm really excited to be helping you treat that dissociative brain fog that you experience when you just don't know where you are. And today we'll be talking specifically about finding yourself and your place inside of the LLMs of today. And I've got a wonderful guest on the show to help us diagnose that pain, treat it. And his name is Mathias. Mathias, can I have you share a little bit about yourself and your company? And we'll jump in from there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hi, I'm Mathias. As said, I'm kind of completely from another perspective here. So my background is very, very, very broad. I have a very technical background in education and masters and so on, and I quickly stumbled into sales somehow in B2B, very niche sales, automotive software, platforms for autonomous driving and e-mobility and such. Okay. And I was there heading a European sales team, and we were going to Unicorn. It was a crazy ride, 8 years long. And I met a person there, with whom I created another startup after that one. And there I was a managing director and the CSO and wanted to rank in Perplexity, and that's how it all started, actually.
Okay, all right. So the Perplexity was the original target. Now, this doesn't sound like a Texas accent. Tell me where you're actually calling in from today.
I'm actually calling from Vienna. That's in Austria.
Awesome.
So other side. And yeah, it's pretty late now already.
You guys are famous for your K-pop music, if I remember correctly, right? No, that's
you
just
sure?
a joke. Sorry. Yeah, no. My kids have been listening to like these, they're called, I don't know if you've heard this, I don't even know if it's even made its way to Europe, but brain rot characters now have brain rot music. And it is awful. And I keep thinking about all these wonderful Viennese masters who are probably going to rise from the grave and haunt us for the terrible music we're producing today. So
this could be, but it's culture, it's music culture, it's broad. Everybody can pick his or hers.
Find your thing. Okay. All right. So your challenge, the place that you started with, is probably the pain point for a lot of people. You were trying to figure out how to market yourself and position yourself inside of Perplexity specifically. But talk to me about some of the stories that you've heard. Like, what are brands and marketers going through today that maybe is really different from what was 2 years ago? Because again, we're in a very different world as a digital marketer than we were then.
Well, there are a couple of things. One is that it's not only about Google and Bing anymore. So you have now a very broad, like multi-channel situationship here where you have to be visible in various parts of the LLM world. So not only ChatGPT, but Perplexity, but maybe Mistral in Europe or DeepSeek and similar. And the thing is, those LLMs, they synthesize their responses not only via training data, maybe, when they're crawling or something, but also via web results. And they take over maybe not that highly authoritative content already. And so it's not always clear that if you rank in Google, you actually will be there as well. So there could be, for example, that one Reddit post from 1 year ago with, 5 points or something, dragging your whole reputation down in specific queries, and you don't even know about it in ChatGPT, for example. So this is a thing.
Yeah, no, I think that fractured market is probably there. And I think probably part of the challenge that we hear and see a lot is executive teams are so focused on the LLM. There's almost this mismatch between reality and what's happening in sort of the boardroom. Tons of search volume still happening on Google, lots of traditional channels still doing very well, but everybody is suddenly focused, well, like, hey, I ChatGPT everything, therefore everybody else must be ChatGPT everything. How are we doing in ChatGPT? So some of this is probably also a little bit of this pressure to figure out what's happening before it's even actually happened. Is that fair?
Well, the thing is, the traffic maybe is pretty low, so in the one-digit percentages or similar. But in comparison to people like researching stuff on Google, they research it with ChatGPT and they get a perfect explanation. Maybe those 5 brands they are interested are already presented. They don't even look further, and they click the link or go to the page with a completely different intent than they would if they just go by Google. And with that, they convert in another ratio than maybe by just researching. So that's I think the difference. They're coming with a much higher intent to your pages, if they come to your pages at all, because these days also ChatGPT launched the e-commerce part where you can directly buy for Shopify and so on. So this will be a thing in the future, but still, to be in there, or to get those people to your page with a high intent, you should also be in the responses.
Okay, so there's the balance of, hey, this audience traffic is maybe 3 Google searches, is maybe 1 ChatGPT visitor to the site because they're not necessarily rehashing. Talk to me about the technical challenges and barriers, though, to really tracking ranking inside of ChatGPT or Perplexity as opposed to Google. Obviously, the rank tracking market has been largely stable for Google for decades. It's SEMrush and some of these others out there. But I've tested a lot of their tools and I've been pretty disappointed with their AI tracking efforts. So tell me why AI rank tracking is so much different, so much harder than that typical Google rank tracking.
Well, you don't have the classic keywords on first sight. You have long tail keywords. You have various variations, basically on how a user could actually query a specific topic. And I think the really hard part is to estimate and to find out which queries you can put into, or you can synthesize in a topic you can actually track. Because it could be that if you just only do queries like list me the top 10 companies of X epsilon, that it's nice that you rank there, but maybe the people are coming with a completely other query along and you're not even seen there. So you have to find out at first which queries are the ones you want to actually rank. That's like keywords, but much more complex. And also you have various LLMs, not only Google. and you have to find out, and I think this is very crucial, you have to find out which sources actually drive those results as well. So it's not only being in the response of training data or similar, but really which sources are driving it, because it's like a wild west. They are directly influencing.
So probably the first pain point to really begin addressing this is understanding the prompts that your customers are potentially using to find you. And one of the things I've seen is that the actual typical prompt length is someplace north of 20 words. We tend to write little love letters to ChatGPT like, hey, GPT, it's sunny today. I'd like to get like a nice short sleeve shirt. Could you recommend? Is that going to be maybe what you would say to a brand who is in this pain point right now? Like the first thing is to start to figure out what types of prompts you want to focus in on and maybe define them. And maybe how would you also, as a second part to that question, how would you start to steer people strategically to choose those prompts? Like, what's a good prompt, core prompt, to start to build a rank tracking around versus, again, that sort of, it's a sunny day, I want to look for a t-shirt today sort of prompt, which is probably hyper specific and is maybe not super valuable.
I think you already said it. I think you should focus on 2 to 3 different sets. One being like the core prompts, where you really just have this simple, you look for something that has something prompts, or some I don't know, top CRM tools in 2025 for SMEs, for example. So short core prompts, I think these are important, but also having a second set like for edge prompts, where you look into different flavors of that may make sense. So for example, that it's not only for SMEs, but it's for startups that need to find some kind of a CRM system that also has a ticket system or any support system implement, things like that extend to it. So to find also edge prompts, and with that you can analyze then the visibility in those sources that are coming back.
Okay, and how much of prompt response can we expect to be standardized? So when I am sort of working on that rank tracking, and how much of it's going to be personalized? So again, that person's kind of interacted with ChatGPT a lot. It's their therapist, their boyfriend, their boss. And now they're also asking about what CRM to use because they're at work. Can you kind of help me understand, like, maybe how that also creates some additional pain points here?
Well, for us, it creates pain points because we cannot look into the personas or into the saved memories in, I don't know, ChatGPT or similar. So we can just try to craft our prompts as specific as possible if we want to go into these personas. And some tools, they have some persona settings, but what they do is nothing else than they append the same persona settings to the prompt they send again to the LLM. So this is pretty hard yet to crack because it's still a big black box, and those providers, they don't give you information on their audiences or on that.
How much do you think that actually matters? So that, because it's like one of the things that I'm finding as I'm talking a lot and I'm dealing a lot with this AI SEO effort is I'm finding a lot of people talking about things that when I actually start to dig into it, I'm like, I just am not sure that this matters. Because again, if I think about my own personalization to ChatGPT, I've provided some professional context, some personal context. But then when I'm asking something very specific that's unrelated to either of those, so again, I was shopping for like a bodyboard recently, and again, my personal and professional context doesn't really speak much to the bodyboard selection process. So do you think that's maybe something that people overestimate sometimes, this sort of risk of personalization? Maybe that's actually a little bit, expecting too much of the AI specifically?
Yes, I think so. Also, you have the topic of query fan out, which we also just can estimate there. But if you like provide your own greg or memory along with a very long question or something similar, also the LLM breaks it down into something much more like simple in order to perform the searches and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe those two types of things are areas where brands should be aware of and digital marketers should be aware of, but maybe also hold that in context. Because I think that's also been the thing with Google. When we first started Googling back in the early 2000s, we were using 3 words, 4 words. And I think of late, the average Google keyword length was something like 15 words or 16 words. So it was actually getting closer to a prompt length, even though it wasn't necessarily as long. But we were still sort of getting a similar outcome where a lot of the actual important personalization was actually being built into the prompt itself. In this case, with Google, a query. But so yeah, so curious about some of the challenges here. So if I'm looking to, as a brand, I recognize I don't know where I rank. I've got an opportunity here to start thinking about my particular prompts, and that's I think a really good treatment suggestion, level 1. Before you really want to figure out where you rank, you want to figure out what you want to be ranking for and where you think you should be ranking. The second piece down from there is really beginning to understand how to track and take the difference of an AI response and then turn that into a meaningful report. Can you talk to me how RankScale thinks about that? Or thinks about reporting on positioning within prompts, because it's very different than sort of a Google, 10 blue links page, which is largely gone anyway. So can maybe help me understand like sort of the value of positioning and how you might report on that as a marketer?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have a couple of metrics we look into. We also have our own one, which is called the visibility score, and it's a kind of a formula that combines the detection rate itself. So if you are detected even, along with the order of appearance in the text, so it compares, automatically extracts all the brands that are in there, also our own one, and it brings up the metrics for that. So that's the visibility score. But then there's also like a mention itself. Are you even mentioned? Are you detected? Are you maybe in the top 3 up there? And specifically also, how is the AI talking about you? I mean, which negative points is it bringing up? Which positive points? Which maybe neutral points? We have to look into that, as well as into cited sources. So is the LLM using sources to bring you up? Is it putting like little indexes to it? And where does that come from, that information? So you want to know if there are like negative sentiments. Where's this negative sentiment coming from? It drags you down.
Yeah, that's actually also, I mean, one of the things here that is I would really stress for brands that are listening and thinking about their LLM positioning. Your website becomes somewhat secondary here, especially if you're in that e-commerce space and you're now thinking about OpenAI has announced this instant checkout experience. Google and PayPal recently partnered and are probably far down the path of trying to do something similar. Your website is fading into the background here. And so part of what Mathias just called out is that the first thing you need to understand is not only am I ranking, but what is actually being said about me when I rank? Like, what is that brand? Because great, you're number one, but ChatGPT also kind of treats you poorly. Interesting question. We've just recently completed a study, and I don't know if you've done anything to look at this. We did a study to see which of the large language models that are popularly used for search tended to be the most negative in its response. And we found that ChatGPT actually tended to almost always want to include a negative. So we looked at like even Grok, which has a bit of a rough reputation, right? But most often we found like DeepSeek, Grok, AI Mode, Gemini, each of them are coming back with if you ask about a brand or a person or product, it's almost always positive unless there's a real strong negative sentiment. But ChatGPT is almost always going out and finding like this one obscure fact about you from, again, that old Reddit post and being like, but you may want to be careful because someone on Reddit said it almost blinded them, It's like, okay, that's kind of a big deal. Have you done any research into that as to which of the LLMs is maybe a little more negative in tone?
Well, that's an interest. We can do a research basically on any topic and any brand we set up in RankScale, so it's easily identifying exactly that. So we can do that. It's interesting. I did not think about it yet, but I saw like from a gut feeling that ChatGPT is always trying to compare things, always bringing up the pros and the cons, and to give you like an holistic overview, while others tend to just bring up positive points and no negative at all. So that's right.
Okay. So that was a little bit of a tangent. So we're dealing with the actual rank tracking. So you touched on a couple of things that are really important. So one is where are you ranking? And then two behind that is actually what is being said about you? And then I think three is what are the sources? So again, because your website is fading behind, how is RankScale don't have to give me the secret sauce. I need the full formula here. But like, what are some of the things that you're building into your reporting that to help bring that all together for a brand or digital marketer out there?
So specifically for the sentiment, for example, or for the tonality the AI is talking about, we are looking into, or specifically extracting negative keywords and look how often do they come, and we bring them together and bring you like a radar chart where you see as a one on the first side, okay, in which direction does it lean? Does it lean for each AI engine, but also overall? So maybe you can identify like an overall trend or something similar. And we also, in the next iteration, we interpret that data for you, so you don't have to look through all these keywords and charts just there. And also, it automatically, it recognizes the downsides of your competitors and tries to bring up like a battle card of your advantages over them, so you have directly an action plan how to deal with that. This is one thing. The other thing is, or the other analysis is citations or sources, as you said. This is really interesting. So we did a study with Search Engine Land, for example, where we where we set up 8,000 different queries, and we fired them against the AI engines, from B2B queries to B2C queries. And we saw that each AI engine, it favors other sources. So you cannot even say, okay, as long as I'm on G2, everything is fine, or something similar. I have good reviews there. It's really completely different. So you have to get a feeling, and that's what we can do after a couple of runs, since the outcomes are also very volatile. But after a couple of runs, you can immediately see the weightings of sources. So you can see, okay, that, for example, I don't know, some website is coming up from a domain point of view much more often than other ones. Also, these URLs are maybe coming up much more often than other ones, and I want to find out maybe also when they start to pick up. You have a time series, and you see, okay, there's a new source out there. Maybe not many brands are linked to it yet, but that's an opportunity in order to do what we should do nowadays, again, like real good PR, and reach out to them and get mentioned in there, not with a backlink, because that is old school, or SEO. In this case, in GEO or LLMs, you just have to be mentioned, and together with a positive tonality. That's what we can find out, actually.
Because the LLM is also doing the matching work of saying, well, this would have been the link from the publisher site to yours, and this is the destination. Instead, the LLM is saying, like, hey, I've got enough about you entity-wise that I can do that legwork myself to connect them. Maybe as we start to get a little closer to the end, strategically, what are some things that you think are really important for the GEO ranking approach? So you mentioned some really good PR. I'd be curious also, too, as part two of the question, sites that maybe surprise you for their influence. So not the obvious, everybody says, oh, you got to be in Wikipedia, you got to be in Reddit. But, what are some things like that? So if you could maybe throw out some of your GEO best practices based on actually being knee deep in these rankings. And then two, maybe like what are some surprising sites that you think are worth paying attention to?
I think that some maybe not so authoritative sites from Google are popping up as sources and are seen as authoritative sources. So as said, it's like a wild west currently. Sources, as long as there is a couple of them saying the same about a brand, a person, whatsoever, the LLM crawlers at some point they think that it's authoritative enough to take over the content.
Okay.
And my co-founder actually did some experiments with Perplexity where he just created the same pages. He bought some high authoritative domains that were out of time, and he created pages that directly say in the URL or directly bring up in the URL the query, like with dashes. And it said like the best SEO in Vienna, in Graz, in Berlin, and so on. And after a short time is 2 to 3 days, actually Perplexity picked it up and listed this fictive person as the best SEO. And the funny thing is, as soon as this happened, he was able to change the content of the sites, and Perplexity changed its responses based on that. So it's really, we have to be careful today because this is still very highly influential, and it could be that it's spammed. Pretty soon, or is already.
Yeah. You think that'll change quickly? Do you think they'll start borrowing some of Google's tactics from 10 years ago to kind of, okay. And then what about just other GEO practices? So outside of just maybe being cited or gaming domain authority and some of these other things, any other things that are really important maybe for brands to be thinking about in terms of like, this is a checklist of ways to approach your content or your site that maybe would be helpful for them?
I think it depends on the size of the business or of the size of the website or how many people know it, because smaller ones that are not yet also maybe ranking in Google or similar, they can easily achieve visibility with being in the right sources, doing PR, point one. Okay. The bigger ones, they can improve by changing the website's content, but it's the structure, all the posts, the blogs and so on, and they can improve on that specifically. And you see this a lot with listicles and top 10 lists. And this is something that these LLMs, they take over. They love it, ChatGPT, they easily take that. That's the reason why HubSpot, for example, or many other sites, they do like comparisons with all their competitors, put themselves on the first place, and it works.
Yep. Okay. Very good. All right. Some good old school SEO gamesmanship maybe is the key for the AI today. Well, Mathias, I'm really excited to chat with you. I'm excited to be a RankScale user. Again, just for those of you who are out there, we actually connected with Mathias organically. We're testing so many different AI rank tracking tools because of some of these challenges, and we've really appreciated RankScale as a resource for us and for our clients. And so we were really eager to get him into this conversation. I'm sure we're going to have some updates because I know RankScale's got a lot coming, but also there's a lot happening in LLMs. It's changing. Yes. Any particular promotions, offers that you can make out for our listeners today?
Yes, actually, if you're listening, you could use a promo code if you like to. It's CT Pain Points. You get a discount out of it. And you're happy if you also try it. Just, we have a free trial as well.
Awesome. Well, Mathias, thank you so much for your insights, your experience, and being willing to share with us today. We'll have to have you back on soon because just everything is happening all the time.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Join us again soon for another episode of Salve as we dive into today's digital ailments and pain points and help you cure and treat them.